Hey, this is Inside Windows Phone. I am Matthias Shapiro, filling in for Larry Lieberman, and
I'm Jeff Bertoft.
And today we're going to talk a little bit about HTML5 and building apps in HTML5 for Windows Phone. And Jeff is an HTML5 and JavaScript expert, so I wanted to have him tell us a little about it. So, Jeff, tell me about HTML5, Windows Phone. What are our options?
Yeah, well, so first of all, HTML5 is a really great, real popular development environment because it does stretch across so many different platforms. The first being the web. So a lot of times we forget that we can actually still develop on the web with HTML5. So that's kind of the first primary platform that Microsoft really supports. We have an outstanding browser, Internet Explorer 10, that is fully featured and supports a lot of the recent HTML5 specs. But then we also have development environments in Windows 8 that allows us to build Windows 8 applications directly in HTML5 and JavaScript.
So this is, I could build an HTML application for Windows 8 and submit it to the store. Now, is this inside a web browser control, or?
Actually, it's not. So it's a pure JavaScript application where the app itself is packaged into the store and the user downloads it just like they would a XAML app or a C++ app. The user doesn't know any different, and they download it, and it's managed directly by the OS, and allows you to create those same great experiences that you would expect from other Windows 8 applications, only using HTML5 and JavaScript that us web developers know and love so much.
Okay, so that's for Windows 8. What about Windows Phone? What are your options there? Can we still build apps, submit them to the store, do that for Windows Phone?
So Windows Phone has always had the option for building apps in HTML5. Now it goes back to what you're saying. In the Windows Phone world, we are actually taking our applications and we're wrapping them in a native wrapper. So we have our HTML5 application wrapped in the native wrapper. That way, if we need to access the APIs that aren't available in HTML5 today, then we can actually expose that through the native portion and have it communicate directly with our JavaScript application.
Okay, and correct me if I'm mistaken, but when we create our web browser for our Windows 8 application and wrap that inside of a C# or C++ app, we're actually getting an instance of IE10, the same IE10 that we would have if we just opened up the browser. It's a full-on IE10, no holds barred, that we can then use the power of that and the speed and have that just available to HTML5 developers inside of your application.
Yeah, and that's something that is actually very impressive about Windows Phone 8 is that we use the same, first of all, across Windows 8 and Windows Phone 8, we use the same version of Internet Explorer. It's Internet Explorer 10 with the same features, the same supported HTML5 functionality. And whenever we get into a web view in Windows Phone 8, we're using an instance of Internet Explorer 10. So anything that works inside the browser is going to work when you run it in a web browser in the app as well.
That's pretty cool. Do you have any great examples for
us
to look at? Okay.
I do. I brought one with me today.
Great.
So on my screen here, I have the code for a game called Yeti Bowl. And I'm going to start out by kind of showing you what this game looks like. So in Yeti Bowl, you're the Yeti, and you're armed with snowballs, okay? And you need to drop your snowballs, I'm not doing very good today, down the mountain and knock the hikers off before they steal your flags. So you've got 3 flags. So it's a fun little game, and you get to knock hikers off a mountain with a snowball. I don't know what else you'd want in a game.
Hey.
So the way that I have this right now is it is a web-based game. It's written in HTML5, utilizes the canvas tag.
So I could go on the web, go to a website, and play this game.
Right. Okay. You can host this on your website. Your users can go to visit that URL and play your game.
Gotcha. And I notice you're using the keyboard.
Yeah. So I'm using the keyboard. I do have a touch screen here, so I can just as easily use the touchscreen controls.
I see, okay.
And this game is built for both, and I highly recommend if you're building a game today that you consider both users who have a touch screen and users who have a keyboard.
Right.
Because you might have some that have both like me, but chances are, a lot of your users will have one or the other.
Gotcha.
Now, one of the problems with web-based games is that a lot of users expect to be able to go to the marketplace
Right.
to buy it, whatever marketplace is there. In this case, we're going to look at the Windows 8 store. We'll start with Windows 8.
Okay.
So if I want to distribute this application in the Windows 8 store, I'm going to go into the directory here and copy the files that I am using to build this game. I'm then going to open up Visual Studio's, in this case, Express 2012 for Windows 8.
This is the free version of Visual Studio.
This is the free version
Okay.
of Windows Studio. I'm going to open up a new project, start with a blank app, and then I'm actually just going to take these files and paste them into the application. So
and this is a JavaScript template, pure JavaScript application.
exactly.
Okay.
Now, if you're a JavaScript developer, this is going to look familiar to you because we've got HTML files, we've got JavaScript files, we've got CSS files, we have our directory over here. It's just like it is developing for the web. So I've pasted my files in. I need to make one more change here because I want to make sure that the default page loads up my game page.
Okay.
And it's called game.html.
Okay.
So I'm going to save that, and I'm going to run it from here. And the same game that works on the web is just going to work here in Windows 8 as well. Now, the difference is that this is running locally. This would be an app that you download from the store. Your user would discover in the store, download it, and
Play it on the airplane.
play it on the airplane, whatever. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a full-fledged app,
Okay.
just like any other Windows Store app would be.
Okay. So that's your Windows 8 experience.
Yeah.
But we can't do native JavaScript on Windows Phone, so what are we going to do there?
Okay, so Windows Phone, there's not really too many additional steps that you need to do. So I'm going to do basically the same thing I did for Windows 8 here on Windows Phone. I'm going to start a new project, and this time I'm going to choose the template, which is the Windows Phone HTML5 app, which in this case is really a C# app that wraps up my HTML5 code here.
Right, with the web browser control,
Right. It's
hosting
already
an
gonna-
IE instance. Right.
Already going to have the web browser control in there. So this is going to get set up here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my HTML folder, and I'm going to paste that same code in here. Okay. Now, I do need to make a few changes here. First of all, in my HTML folder, I'm going to delete the indexed file that was there by default, and then I'm going to change the name of game.html to be index.html. Since I'm using JavaScript in my application, as most of our applications will, I'm going to go into the web browser control. Make my screen a little bigger here so we can see this.
Oh, looks like you dragged your localized string name in there. There we go. Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to add an additional value that is script enabled and set it to true. So
Okay.
that way it'll
And
allow
that
us
just
to
says
run
we can run
JavaScript.
JavaScript inside of
Right.
this web browser.
Right.
Gotcha.
I don't have an application bar in this. I'm going to go ahead and delete this, move this over. The screen's a little bit different size, so I'm actually going to add a little bit of pixels here. My web view, and then we'll run it. Pull up my phone emulator and give it a second. Okay, so here it is. The same game that we had played on the web.
It does look pretty similar.
We played it on Windows 8. Like my button doesn't want to work here. And now we can play it on the phone as well.
Awesome.
So that code that I built for the web, I can reuse it inside both Windows 8 and Windows Phone 8 here. I didn't have to change any of my actual code.
Okay.
Now, it's important to remember because a lot of us have not only skills and time invested in learning HTML5 and JavaScript, but we have also invested in frameworks. Maybe you're heavily using YUI or jQuery inside of your applications. Well, you can use those same frameworks inside of the apps.
Just pull them in, use them like we would inside of our websites.
That's right. That's right. And for jQuery, in particular with jQuery version 2.0, it's now works and certified directly inside of Windows 8 apps.
Great.
So you should have no problem using those same libraries inside of Windows 8 and Windows Phone 8 apps as well.
That's pretty cool. So moving forward, if you want to do more with Windows Phone and HTML5, there are a couple of great frameworks that you might want to look into. I'm going to mention some, and Jeff, you just let me know if there are other ones that you love. We have Create.js, which is a great framework for building games. If you've ever seen, look up the Atari HTML5 demos, and you'll see these great touch-enabled experiences that run directly on your phone. We've got some great examples of Processing.js. You can actually build Processing.js apps on your Surface using an application in the store, and they'll run on your phone. We've got some Channel 9 content on that. And lastly, we actually have a really exciting thing around PhoneGap. And PhoneGap, if you're unfamiliar, is it's kind of a wrapper around the web browser that supports cross-development on iOS and Android and Windows Phone. And we have a Port Your PhoneGap app to Windows Phone challenge coming up. And hopefully we'll have the originator of that project on Inside Windows Phone soon. But it's a really great time if you've got HTML5 skills and you want to bring them into application development for Windows Phone. It's a great way to go.
Yeah, and if you're a developer who's already invested in PhoneGap and you already have your app out on other platforms, it's a perfect opportunity to just take the next step and bring it to Windows Phone 8 as well. So that's the great thing about HTML5. It's easily portable from one platform to the next.
So, great, and thanks for joining us on Inside Windows Phone. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me.